This may make a little bit of noise. I'm going to move this microphone. In fact, I'm going to mute myself while I move the microphone. Save all of your ears. Okay, hopefully all of the noise of springs vibrating and so forth on this microphone stand have subsided and you're not being blasted in your headphones. Got my lemon ginger tea. Got my drawing tablet. Let's do something. All right, so for this, let's go new layer. We're going to do something slightly above. We got like a light gray, and we got a dark gray. Let's tone this somehow. Maybe we want to go into the warm tones there. And I'm thinking a brush that has size applied to the pressure. So either the Sinful Onion #1 or the Natural Drag. I like the Natural Drag. That's a good one. I mean, I like them all. I can't say that I don't like them. They are my brushes after all. They're all perfect. That's not true. That's an exaggeration. So I'm thinking like a bog scene, you know, logs in the bog. So we'll do one like that. Whoop, 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 whoop. And we got a little character there. Maybe we'll do a few more characters. And then you gotta have a little bit of a background there. Maybe we've got this lighter color. Do we want to introduce it? Just so that we have some semblance of a background. You know, a tree line back there or something. I don't know. It's okay. I think if we do that, then we have to put it into the reflection in the water. Okay, and then we'll switch over to the smudge brush and just kind of make that a little less perfect. Can't be having perfect things around here. Okay, let's do another. I just got this concept of like, there's this water, body of water, and then there's these almost like oil rig kind of workers. Come on. And they're out here on this industrial type thing. And then you've got some kind of device here. Emanating some craziness. That's making it's disturbing the water. Don't disturb the water. But they can't help it, they have to. It's for industry. Then, let's see. We'll throw some things in the water here that, I don't know, we gotta make it interesting somehow, not just, it could just be a expanse of water, I suppose. Guys really shouldn't disturb the water, though. It's not a good idea. The scale of that's no good. That's no good. Gotta have something more, maybe tree-like in there. Because these dudes, tiny little dudes with their white hard hats in there. Working away. But what are they doing? Disturbing the water, that's what they're doing. And they really shouldn't. I don't know if I mentioned that yet, but they really shouldn't. Okay. The stream health says the audio's stream's current bitrate is 0. And that's lower than recommended. Well, I'm going to unmute myself just to see whether there's any truth to this. Sorry if there's going to be feedback for sure. No. Definitely getting audio through there. I don't know what that message is all about. Let's continue on. I'm going to take this. We'll cut this out and kind of just do its own thing out of that. So we'll do Command X, Command Shift V. We'll duplicate that. We'll keep the large one just in case we want to work off of that thumbnail, but I want to get this down to a thumbnail size so that we've actually got something, to work with. We'll merge that down to the other one. And then let's constrain our we want it low like that. Yeah, kind of like that. So one of the ideas I'm thinking with this is to show something beneath the waves here. So we'll start with just kind of mashing this up here, blending it in, giving some tonal value to the image, and then we'll start bringing in our object. Let's say it's this. We're going to take these pieces here that are kind of sticking out. There's one there. Maybe we'll form them into some sort of a arrangement. And let's try to make these shapes a little more interesting here. I think we just kind of need an overall form that this is following. I'm thinking kind of a disc type form. Maybe we'll put a little ball in the middle there or something. All right, and then we're going to set that to multiply and lower the opacity on that. And then I think we can put a mask on that and do a smudge, and then we just kind of fade that down as it goes down under the surface. Okay, bring that back up. We can just kind of clean it up a little more. Okay, okay, okay. I don't know what that is back there. We'll make that even more diminished. This too, this is kind of, I'm kind of seeing that as a form that goes back behind everything. Let's do some more thick and thin type work here. And what is going on with this thing? Whoa. Yeah. Photoshop decided to, well, I think actually Chrome decided that it wanted to be in focus and not Photoshop. All right, I see we got Greg in the chat. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. All right, let's push that down. Might even increase the intensity of this mask. I mean, it's a destructive process, so you know, 'tis what it is. But at this stage, thumbnailing, we can do whatever we want. If we want to be destructive, we'll be destructive. I like the smooth gradation, but I do think we need to kind of end at black so that it has a clear cutoff. Hmm. Huh, huh. That's probably fine. Let's zoom back in. I got an idea that we'll want to add some more little wave breaks on top of this, around these, right? Like this, to delineate those. Um, the forms from their reflections, right? I mean, this is the reflection of this guy up here. Disturbing the water, what a huge mistake. Huge mistake. Telling them, don't do it. Seriously, guys. Let's bring this arc kind of like out of the scene and then back in here. Go back to our smudge brush. And that down there. Thicken it up as it comes around here. I wonder if, so here I'm almost implying that that's like this misty horizon line. Back here, I've got it really high up, so I think I might kind of bring that down. And that actually might be nice as like a background. I'll just do this right behind these guys right here. Might be nice to like have that misty, foggy thing back there, which could just be like a wave break. That'd be kind of fun. But anyway, have that kind of accenting those characters right there. Huge mistake, fellas. Huge. Huge. Oh, don't say I didn't warn you. All right, let's see about. Let's do this as like a multiply. Okay. Do. Huh. Greg says the splash was worth it, though. Maybe yes. Actually, the bigger the splash, totally worth it. Is this just gonna end up being a shark movie? Is that what this is? Come on, Eric. Let's see. Color burn versus multiply. I always love the way color burn gives that transition. Something about it. However, right here, that's burning. That monolithic thing beneath it. Uh, that little monolithic thing. Silly. Okay, anyway, and do we want to nuke that? Nah. Maybe I don't know. Do I want to keep going on this? I kind of do, but I feel like there's more. Bigger, brighter future ahead. Should that be above there? Yeah, whatever. Let's just switch over to a regular schmegular brush. There, bringing in some color and atmosphere. Let's see, dark blue and some of the areas here. definitely too much, but we're going to leave it in there. Instead of being timid, we're going to keep it in and then slowly work it back so that we can really push that farther. Okay. I really didn't get the thick and thin with this brush. I think I was mistaken about that. I don't think that brush really has that feature. The wrong brush for what I intended. Still, wonderful brush. Best brush ever. Okay. Working on my salesmanship. It's a work in progress. Okay. Okay, basically here, what I'm playing with is getting these refined into more clarified shapes. Let's see, did that do any good? Not much. All right, so let's do another layer here. And I'm seeing this kind of wave. I've got this reference pulled up of a helicopter over. And actually, instead of doing this brush, because I'm kind of controlling that with pressure, I'm going to use this dragon brush. It's got a nice, kind of weird almost lack of control to it that I love. Just just in the sweet spot, I think, for me at least, of like it's gonna do a few things that are unexpected, but not so unwieldy that you feel like you're not doing it. That makes sense. It would be kind of cool just to have like just the top of this thing popping out. So like they're whatever they're doing with this device here, they're just the top of that thing's popping out. That might be kind of fun. All right, I'm going to do a new layer for the kind of rings expanding out, kind of the spider web looking. And then I think we need to kind of add some density in here at some point. So I'm going to go a little bit brighter. We're just going to pick a couple regions here to really just go nuts. And then we'll vary that up. So some areas will have a lot of wave foam going on, and then others less. Areas of, what do they call that? Detail and rest, activity and rest. What's the other word besides rest? Action. Okay, that'll do for now. All right, let's do the top of this thing popping out of the water here. Guess we'll go with this brush. Whoops. It might make sense to give that some kind of interesting otherworldly effect, like a iridescence, or I don't know, some kind of glow coming up from underneath or something. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go. Pick a color. I'm gonna go with like a reddish, pinkish reddish. Yeah, something like that. And so where the water breaks, kind of fading up. go a little more intense, a little darker with that. Okay, anywho, I think we can increase some contrast, play with some values. I think all this bright foam in here we can kind of bring down as it goes back into the background there. Kind of start balancing this out. I like that things kind of get lost back in here. So I want to play with that a little bit more. Lost and found edges. Okay, looking back at the chat, I'm trying to make a brush to make tiny, not so random connected, nice looking shapes. No luck so far. Some people seem to just design tiny shapes that are like 10 pixels wide. Looks almost like they hand draw each one, but I bet there's a trick to it. Um, that's a great question. I think I'd have to see what you're talking about there, because I think it's possible to do most things with a brush, but when it comes to like designing shapes, um, I don't know. I've tried to make brushes for that sort of thing. Your tastes change though over time, and so it's not always a surefire thing. Hmm. You gotta like re um, reestablish those shapes that I'd put in here. Oh, golly gee willikers, mister. Hmm. Go a little darker with these, maybe. I don't know how much I want to like have fade off into obscurity. You know, just not be important versus, you know, starting to draw the eye into these things, or just draw the eye into some of these areas, or am I thinking more along the lines of you know, the whole composition bringing, you know, the foreground into shadow? Yeah, I think it's about time to zoom out and think about some of those things. I am, however, going to just add a little bit more contrast in here. I wanted these to be like these, you know, shapes coming out of the water. Now see how that one there, same color, but it's a little bit farther back, and against those lighter values there, it appears to be darker. Uh, okay, time to zoom out. Take stock. Okay, in terms of the crop of the image, I don't know, not that great. We could do something different. We could expand it. We could cut it in. There's a couple things I'm thinking. I'm seeing like this shape come around, and so that might be worth doing here. Have that. Come around that way. And then I'm seeing this here, an opportunity for all of that to be a little more obscured, like in the background a bit. Maybe a little bit darker here. And widen this, like this could be lighter farther over. Not the greatest technical terms here, but and then I wonder if this, you know, we have this coming in like so. It might make more sense if it doesn't have to come in from the side like that, I guess is what I'm thinking. So One is that we can add a little bit of darker value to have it, you know, appear like it's more closer to us and receding into space. Um, but I actually don't really care for it as a shape in general. So I like certain things about it. I like that it looks like there's kind of like a wet deck there that's reflecting, um, that light and then that slight reflection of the objects behind it implies that it's wet, which then makes it feel precarious, which is great. I mean, that's exactly what I'm going for here. Um, okay, let's kind of flatten that out a little bit back there. Um, that may actually be too much there, but we'll see. So I'm gonna just kind of nuke all this, get rid of it, and uh, then we'll see if something else presents itself as a good alternative. I mean, even if it's like a spaceship, but that's actually just not really the theme or era that I'm going for. You know, I'm not going for this. I'm going for like maybe a modern, today's world, contemporary sci-fi, not a future sci-fi. I don't like that particularly because the kind of arc of this, that oval is it's getting a bit off. I guess it's kind of an opportunity to do what I know I probably should have done all along anyway. And that is to get that background more established. Um, before drawing in those characters and all that sort of stuff there. And then we can, of course, do that on a separate layer. When we're just doing what do you call it? A thumbnail sketch. I don't want to be too hung up on those things. But once you start making some of these decisions, then it's time to commit. Start making the layer stack correctly so that you can work with it. I think I might just bring all of this into one shape here. telling them. Don't disturb the water. I mean, I did tell them that, right? You guys heard that. Okay, let's kind of bring that value back down. Extend that over. I think we'll just extend this along here. Might push that down a little bit in value. Not sure what to do with this. I like this. I like what's going on here with this form kind of coming across. Or rather this white shape having the appearance of a form. However, there's just a lot of value balancing that's got to happen here for Eric to be happy. It's a very elusive goal. Trying to find whatever works for Eric. Can I get an amen? All right. Let's see. I'm tempted to just crack out the smudge brush, set it to all layers, and just start kind of painting over all this. Tempted. I don't know. I'm kind of just having fun with the this color soup here. Grays and greens and blues and pale whites. All right, let's get in there and have a look at our focal point here. These guys. What are they doing? What are they working on? You know, is this a spacecrafty thing? You know, big engines. Wee all that stuff. Or, let's see. Do. What? Okay. All right. Okay. Those are just some mighty big engines you got there, buddy. Actually, let's do this on a different layer. All that talk about doing things right. I'm just kind of messing around, making a mess of our layer stack. Yep, there we go. Already exceeded the undo limit, which is fine. It's fine. Actually, that's a point that I should probably make, is that I, many years ago, made the decision to limit my undo pretty drastically. And that way, I was forced to build the confidence to just repaint things that I messed up. And pretty happy with that decision, not gonna lie. In the long term, I think it did help me. Now, there are days where I'd like to undo a couple more steps. But I think you keep moving forward, you know, with the design, and you make decisions about how you are addressing the design issues rather than just kind of hemming and hawing, going back and forth. All right, so I'm going to do a new layer here. In fact, I should probably just get these guys completely on their own layer. Nope, sample all layers. There we go. Let's get all this. Beep, bop, boop. Actually, that's working out fairly cleanly. I was expecting, okay, that's gonna like select everything. I was expecting more of that to happen. Yep, here we go again. Okay. I actually think that's pretty decent there. Whoops. And then we're just gonna go to the lasso tool and grab a few more pieces of it. Knock out a few pieces there. We'll adjust that shape later. Let's fix it in post. Good. I think so. I think I'm happy enough with that. So we'll do Control Shift C, Control Shift V. And then I'm going to Control click that. And we're just going to do expand. Sure, 20 pixels. That'll work. We'll do a new layer. And I'm going to do smudge brush, sample all layers, and we're just going to start smudging into it. Do 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 do. Okay. And we did it just like that. They're gone. I told them, don't disturb the water. All of this could have been avoided. Okay, oh, they're back. They went into the void. Any tips for waves and water? Water reflects light, and wherever you have a shadow, you're just looking into the water, like whatever's beneath the surface. So if you were to paint, let's say a still water scene, just a pond with no waves. Imagine painting whatever you would see underneath the water, like mud and rocks and whatever, and then over top of that, paint in the reflection of the sky. So your shadows are basically going to be a pass through, and you see what's underneath the waves or underneath the water. And then the part that makes it difficult to see through the surface of the water is whatever is reflecting, which is light and not the shadows, is basically what I'm saying. The shadows omit, light reflects. And then when you do waves, you're just kind of changing the angle of reflection. So, a wave that's kind of tilted away from you is going to reflect what's even farther into the horizon. A wave that's tilted towards you is going to reflect what's behind you. And, there are going to be some angles where it's not really reflecting much light at all, and so you're going to see right through it. So I know that that's like, I don't know. I don't know if that's like, if I'm being too... I don't know. I don't know if that's like difficult to understand or just way too simple. Like all it is a face that's reflecting light, and you're kind of deciding whether or not it's at an angle that it should reflect light or not, and whether the position of your sun, whether that's going to be a really bright light or less. And then what I'm doing here with this, the white is basically just that's just the foam, where it bubbles up and everything is just gonna be white. And then I think you can kind of think about your wave shapes in whether or not you want them to be like hard, sharp. I'm sure there's a term for it if you're like in the Navy, for hard waves versus kind of more rolling, softer waves. And I think this has to do with, I'm just taking a guess here. I think it has to do with how much wind is involved. Or I don't know. Could be wrong about that. I think wind is going to give you all those kind of micro breaks on the surface. Okay, anyway, that's not for me to say. Look that up from somebody smarter. But yeah, as far as painting waves, I'll actually show you a brush that I made just for that. So It might not work at this angle, but we're going to go, we're just going to like knock the water out. Remember, the shadow is just what you see underneath the water. So let's just go on that theory and say, okay, we got some, I don't know, sharks or something. I don't know what's a shark look like. This is not a shark drawing lesson. In fact, this is not really a drawing lesson at all. Eric doesn't know anything. So here's your like objects beneath the surface. Okay. And then we'll do a new layer, and we're gonna pick our reflection color. And let's just do like a sky blue, like a little grayer. And then I have a brush that I made right here, water brush. And I'll show you how it works. See, all it is these kind of flattened, broken shapes. And I think the way I set this up, I haven't used it in a while, but I think that the way I set this up is the more pressure you give it, the kind of wider, thicker the shapes are. So near the horizon, I'm going to go kind of light. And then as I come down, see, it gets wider and they break apart. And so all that's doing there, I'm going to do this again a little more simply here. Back and forth. Again, that whole theory of like, you're just taking a face that's changed direction and is reflecting light. That's it. So in this case, I'm kind of implying that there's this sky blue behind us that's reflecting that light, and that wherever it's not reflecting that light, you're seeing whatever's down underneath it. I'm sure there are smarter people who have studied water and refraction and how all that works, you know, the forms and how they break against, waveforms and how they break against things and whatever. Waveform means something else. But anyway, there are definitely artists who have worked harder on understanding this, and so you know there's better information out there. Is what I'm saying. But this is kind of my concept art, bare bones, make it work kind of approach. And some of it has come from observation and doing plein air paintings, but I'm trying to distill that down into something that's like, okay, how do I communicate that like pretty quickly without having to have reference right in front of me? So that would be my water advice. And then maybe the other thing might be you need to pay attention to where your light is in the scene. I'm cheating here, frankly. I've got this like this aqua kind of brighter color coming up as the waves coming up. I don't think you'd actually really see that unless the light was behind it, like back here. Again, not something that I've spent a ton of time studying, but you make these observations and you go, I wonder if there's something to that. And then if you're actually a good student, you'll dig deeper into it and figure it out. But if you're like me, you'll kind of get the good enough answer and then on with your day. It is really in the I say that jokingly, self-deprecating kind of way, but it is one of those things that kind of bothers me. Like I want to have a greater understanding of these things, and I know that a little more effort, a little more study would produce that. But is today that day? I actually kind of like that. I don't know that it really fits necessarily with the perspective of this scene, but I like that it adds to the weird anomalous uh, effect here, but I might adjust it a little bit. Let's go. Let's go back to our brush. I have not released this brush yet. I don't think I plan to. So I have kind of different categories of brushes that I haven't yet released. So I have patterns, and so I've already released the foliage brushes and the painterly brushes. But then I have these kind of specialty things like hair and water and eyeballs and yeah, and then and then the wild brushes. Those are fun. They do weird things. And so I do plan to release those. I just have not gotten around to it. Cheers. It looks great. Specifically, the larger, greener aqua waves in your shadow placement, in my opinion. Thanks. Yeah, yeah. You're welcome. And I would also say, have fun with these things. Design a little bit with these things. I definitely think it's really helpful to study and to draw from life and make observations, and then think about how you can combine that with what you know about design and what makes things visually interesting. And I would used to do this all the time with Realm of Empires, with the metal armor in that game. Uh, you can go like literal. How would this armor look, right? And then you can start to think, well, actually, if I flipped or inverted that relationship there, where, maybe this, I'm speaking about things in my head, so sorry that um, imagine you've got a pauldron on the shoulder, and like a metal sleeve. I can't remember the names of those armor bits. And the way that it reflects and light hits it, you've got like a light. It fades from light to dark on one side to the other. And if you invert that relationship, which you can kind of get away with metals because they reflect things, so you can kind of cheat it, say, well, it's actually reflecting something that's not in the scene. It's off, it's off in the background or something. So you can invert that relationship to make the painting itself pop a little bit more, to be a little more juicy and interesting. And it's not technically correct, but it is designed to be more interesting to look at. So that's something to bear in mind. I'm gonna lower. Let's see. Do I want that to be? Yeah, it's all right at full opacity. I'm just thinking it doesn't have to be. Not everything has to scream high contrast all over the scene, right? I think what I'd like to do. I think what I want to do is just do some color balance, overlay, that sort of thing. That's like that's the standard Eric Elwell way. Usually kicks in at about the time that I'm looking at the painting and I go, I don't really know what I want to do, but I do want to push it, make it more juicy. And then if it's like any other time, we just kind of come back around to where we started in terms of color choices and contrast. It usually ends up a little bit more contrasty, but the nuance in color is interesting because it only really changes slightly, but tends to be similar to where we began. I like this. I feel like that's kind of neutral. Pushing it a little bit blue, I think, gives it this obviously this coldness that makes it, again, with the feeling of kind of danger and perilousness of they're trying to do something with this anomaly. They just keep disturbing the water, and they really shouldn't. Making it cold makes it, to me, at least, I have the perception that falling in that water is a really bad idea. So you got to make these decisions here, considering your palette. But I think I'm going to lean towards the closer to neutral gray. I head back to the midtones and see if we can squeeze a little bit more out. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of liked what I had going on before. There's a balance to be considered when you're you see these like kind of awkward greens here, and we could push that and get the whole scene moving more that direction. But generally, I find that if you introduce the opposite, the complement, even just in a color balance, you don't have to necessarily paint it in. It depends on what you have in the scene already, but just offering a little bit of that complement, will change the kind of overall base of the rest of the scene, and then it'll make that that color pop. I don't know. I feel like I'm just messing with this a little bit too much, and I should probably get to the overlay because I'm just kind of goofing around with that. Okay, so one thing that tends to happen, I know I've mentioned this before. One of the things I like about doing overlay and color balance is it increases your contrast. But the more scenes that I try to add atmosphere, you have to have that kind of low contrast thing going on, and so because otherwise, if you increase the contrast, then there's less. It feels like there's less moisture in the air, and it just looks like a crisper, happier day, which is not necessarily what we're going for. In that case, you could switch from normal to color, so we're just changing color and not the value. I might do that, and actually we'll probably do another version. I'm going to knock out the foreground here. So then as it's moving towards the background, it gets a little bluer like that. And then I think we'll do one more, and I will invert this one and set this one to think just luminosity. That will make the foreground a little bit more, a little darker and more contrasty. That's where we started. That's where we ended. I think we'll do that. We'll knock that one out. All right, so then we'll go to overlay. Where my brush tool, and I think I just want a soft round. Should we have this like blasting moisture up way up there? They really ought to leave this. Keep telling them. That's one of my just uh, general life pet peeve. The "I told you so." You know, at one point in my life, I started trying to say that less, at least in its various forms. I thought, you know what? Really, what is the point of saying that? Do I help anybody out by saying, you know what? Turns out I was right. And it's always in a context where, you know, the other person has suffered some consequence, right? You don't say "I told you so" if like things worked out great. Um, but I did tell these guys not to disturb the water. All right, I think we can kind of use the atmosphere to put a little bloom on these dudes. I'm tempted to push this a little bit darker in here just to get a little more contrast, draw us in a little more. Though I actually think we would be just as well off leaving it lower contrast. I don't know. Yes. Yes, I do believe that. Believe it enough to act on it. Okay. Do we want to make some of this a little richer. Maybe increase the glowy weirdness down here. Glowy weirdness. That's what all the cool kids are saying. You gotta have that glowy weirdness. You gotta put that glowy weirdness in there, or it's not quite right, you know? All the cool kids. I don't like that shape. Should we kind of let that... Should we let it be, or should we complete the circle? We're gonna try. We're just gonna test completing the circle. See what we get. I don't know. I kind of like it. I hate being so on the nose, but I kind of like it. Begs the question, do you really hate being so on the nose, or are you just saying that as a self-defense mechanism? I'm gonna see if I can establish. We keep changing, and by we, here we go. Blaming you guys again. I keep changing the kind of the form of what's going on here by. I kind of want some kind of shelf or something underneath, underneath the water here, because now that I've established that shape, or at least imply that the full sphere. Um, I hold on, brain buffering. Yeah, now that I've implied that sphere, I kind of want something to pass in front of it to establish space, depth in the scene. I should probably just use the lasso tool, make a sphere. You know what? I always say I should probably do things and then I don't do them. Today's gonna be different. There it is. There's our sphere. And I'm just gonna go sample all layers. Can you believe this is happening? All right. Control Shift I. All right, then we're gonna grab that value and throw it in here. Then we'll do Control Shift I again. Once more to bring these values in. Oh, I just feel like I cheated. Using ellipsis lasso tool. Mm-hmm. Does look better though. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't know that the overlay down here is really helping us. It really changes um, the color to be like just kind of overly rich. And I was really enjoying how gray everything was. This is like a greeting card my nephew sent. It said, "The weather is perfect, just like I like it. Gray and stormy and lightning." Had me cracking up for a good 15 minutes. Along with plenty of other awesome things in the card, like a robot with he had all these monsters in there. He had all the major categories of monster. Uh, Anywho, all right, so let's do new layer. I'm going to do sample all layers, and we're just going to kind of grab these really kind of scribbly, scrawly bits here, and we're just going to start kind of breaking them up. And again, the faster you do this with this brush, the more solid the shapes will be. So it'll be less smudge, more breakup. Man, what a great brush. I wonder if you can get this on ArtStation on sale this weekend. That would be amazing. If only it were in a pack of 32 other Painterly brushes for a reasonable price. That would be the greatest Thanksgiving gift of all. Do people do gifts on Thanksgiving? That just seems kind of wrong. Thanksgiving should be a time of, being thankful for what you've already got. Okay, this particular wave here kind of bothers me. Something about it. It's just being too pretentious. You're a pretentious wave, and I don't like that. Oh boy. Don't want to just lower the opacity because that's going to change the shape. But I actually don't want it to be that clear through the water. So I'm going to do a new layer. We're going to paint. And we're just going to throw in. Actually, let's go grayer because we're digging that gray. The idea, in theory, is that we're painting that reflected light. I think it needs to be a little brighter though. I think we could use the lasso tool and get rid of some of these soft edges. Do. Control I. Then we ask, do we even like it? I'm gonna just get this kind of idea that it would be neat to have dragon brush. It'd be kind of neat to have an effect coming out of the thing. But this is the obviously the weird part because we're trying to depict something that does not exist. And I'm trying to do it underneath the waves. So let's put that down a couple layers there. And I usually like color dodge or pin light or have nice mixes. Vivid light, nice. I don't know. I almost prefer the obscurity, not really seeing what's going on, rather than adding all of this. These clues, I guess you'd call it. So I am tempted to bring back those waves just to have the water be less clear. Do. Is it normal, lighter, lighten, or normal, lighten? We'll keep the original wave shape in there, the splashing foam. However, yeah, I don't know. I think I like that more. I'm tempted to do, blend if, but I know that always will crash on the live stream. Cool is kind of shelf. Let's see. I don't know. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, there's just a couple things that um, you know, some of these shapes could be made interesting. And then we could probably call it good on this. So Greg is here in the chat here. We just finished up art skirmish, and I think you probably have gotten the survey. I mean, I would definitely encourage you to fill that out so that um, Silas and I can have a comparison of different people's experiences. But I'm interested to hear how you felt about the alpha. I think a lot of us, had ideas that were kind of bigger than could be done in that amount of time, but still, generally, a lot of progress was made. But I am biased. This shape should probably be simplified. the chat in just a second here. I have not forgotten that I asked a question. Okay. But yeah, definitely would appreciate doing this, having you do the survey to have a sense for that. Yeah, it's too much. I gotta go back. I was just starting to think that these kind of appear to correlate as being on the same plane, and I don't want that. I want this to look like this is a separate layer here. I don't know. Maybe there's no fixing that without gutting it. Or maybe they do just have to correlate. Correlate. All right. Dad jokes abound. But I don't like how evenly spaced these are, and this is probably contributing to the sense that they have to be related. You know, with that, having that third one in there. Having that third one in there, I think, kind of tied them all together in a way that was not intended. All right. A, B. There are some merits to either. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it here. So I'm gonna go we'll go add a curves layer. And I'd like to see this full screen here. I think some of the effect was lost. You know, I think I prefer that. It feels a little like gloomier. Just how I like it. Let's see here. The effect of this. Um, I don't want it to look like it's dropped into the water. You know, I think the splash is contributing to that. I want it to look like this device is pushing the water down. And I think there would be some, backsplash as a consequence of that. But I don't want that to be, don't want to send the wrong visual cue for what's happening. And I think all that backsplash is just doing exactly that. So I'm going to see if we can push that out. And just make it a little calmer looking. Returning to that original concept of it being really just kind of a strange effect. Let's zoom back in here. We did it once, we can do it again. Maybe we can't. That'll be a headline. Artist gets lost in his own digital painting. Search crews unable to recover him. Okay. There we go. Anomalous weird thing. We'll go half season. I don't know. That's a tough. I don't know. I like all that turbulence. Just can't be pleased. I basically like everything except for the darkness of that. You know, it was. I don't know. I don't know. Make a decision, Eric. Just make a decision and go with it. Yeah, I think it was better before. Maybe even a lot better. Okay, looking back at the chat. Weird, I can't send a message. It's alright. It's just nice to commit to a goal is the main thing. I'll do the survey tonight. Started on my phone, but I thought I'd do it on PC. I'd be a big advocate for private channels. You know, I was actually thinking about that. Let me zoom in on this while I'm talking because it's going to be awfully boring to look at absolutely nothing while I'm reading the chat. Not that the chat is boring. It's very interesting. I'm just saying, you know, this is a video and there probably should be something to see. Okay, so, yes, private channels. I was thinking about that. I think that that's an interesting offering, you know, to just have like a group of friends and do your own skirmish, um, if that's what you mean. Uh, Apparently, you can't send more than 20 words or something on YouTube stream. Yeah, there was some kind of like filter that they asked me to put in place, and I didn't really change the settings, so it might be messing with the chat. Maybe there's reasons why you guys wanted it all in one channel. Well, yeah, actually, because the skirmishes will be. Oh, so private channels. I think. Did you mean like everyone has their own space. Yeah. The reason we didn't do that was that well, two things. One is that the skirmish is time sensitive. So um, it's just that those 15 days, and then we'll keep it up for, we haven't determined exactly how long, but probably 30 to 60 days. We'll keep that available for people to kind of go back and look at. But then eventually it's going to get archived or deleted. Um, and that's a function of the skirmish being like really like a experiential uh, like a commitment to this moment, right? Rather than um, I I feel like this is a problem with a lot of online art communities. It feels like there's more value added that you'll like, oh, I have access to this forever and ever. You know, I can come back to this archive. Um, but I think what ends up happening is we just don't actually act because we feel like we always have the opportunity to go back, and but you never do. And so we're we're really pretty mindful about how we're structuring the community so that it encourages you to make progress on the things you've been thinking about doing, and it just pushes you to do those things. And that's the main goal. And archiving things and having a portfolio space or whatever, like that stuff just isn't really important in that community. So that's the first thing is that um, the nature of what Art Skirmish is, we wanted it to be temporary, to be a short commitment, and not this bloated, long term, ambiguous thing where you can't find anything. Which I think is a part of the concern, right, with having everything on the one channel. But that's why we limit the skirmish groups to 10, so that you can keep up with what everyone's doing, and it's never really going to blow up more than that. Like, um, if we had say 20 people, it would just be two different skirmish groups, um, and you would have your group. Yeah, and then the other reason is that I think it encourages interaction, and interaction is actually a part of what I would like to see. I'd like to see what people thought about how the alpha went in terms of interaction, because there's this mix of just get your head down and work, and then show, the showing what you've done is kind of more accountability than it is necessarily asking for feedback. Though, um, for me, the jury's out on that. Or it's still jury's still out. Like it's not clear to me whether it's better to have a lot of kind of feedback, critique, and that sort of thing. I guess if you're asking for it, then I would like for it to be present. But if you just want to show your progress just to have accountability that you did something today, then you're not necessarily asking for people to tell you what they think you could have done better, or and that's fine. So I'll say two things on that note. One is that there are different kinds of cultures in different art communities, and I always gravitated or ended up in the art culture of um, learn to accept negative feedback and make uh, make a positive change, right? So if someone has some criticism, they're actually trying to help you, and you might not like that. It might sting a little bit, but like just listen, have an open mind, and kind of wait and see how that feedback might start to make more sense over time as you're continuing to work. That's always kind of been my mentality towards um, feedback. Well, it's also important that it's the thing, when you're giving feedback, that it's one actionable thing, one or two actionable things that is relevant to where that person is right now, like something they can actually do rather than, um, something that's 2 years down the road or something. Not that there's necessarily anything that far away, but I think you can just get overloaded with a ton of feedback, and it just all feels like, man, they just hate my work. And that's not the point. The point is that you have something actionable that you can grow from. So that's one aspect of that, is that feedback, criticism, critique. There's different cultures for it. Some art communities really want everything to be positive all the time. Some art communities want to be like brutal or whatever. And um, even though I've come from the community that kind of lean more towards like honest critique and always be open minded to negative feedback, that's not necessarily, like, feedback isn't necessarily the most important, or critique isn't necessarily the most important part of art skirmish. The most important part is that you develop a habit of showing up every day and um, committing to your project. Also, that you define the project in a very clear, um, um, as concrete as possible way, that you can look at what the deliverables are and then say, okay, I'm going to take these steps to make that happen in 15 days, right? So it's defining your goals and committing to show up, and that's more important than necessarily getting training or critique along the way. Though I would be interested to hear what people have to say about that, and what they would prefer. That being said, um, there's a reason we do it in a community and not just on your own. I think you need partly the competitive nature, you need partly the um, camaraderie and the accountability. Like, I said I was going to do this. I told the group I was going to do it, and I'm going to feel a healthy amount of guilt if I just sit around and don't do anything after I said I was going to do this thing. So all of that is necessary. And actually, this was a conversation I had a long time ago with an art professor friend of mine. We were talking about how art education online is good. It's really high quality, and will that change the demand for art school? And I think it has, but his point, and I think it was right on. It stewed with me for about 5 years, but basically he was saying, like, you have to have people with you, like you have to have like a tribe that you're doing this with. And there's a dichotomy there where, on one hand, no one is going to make your art for you. If they do, and if they make the decisions for you, it's not really necessarily your art. Like, it wasn't you that designed something. I mean, okay, you need to get feedback, and you shouldn't do everything on your own. But I'm saying, if you're always leaning on someone else to make decisions for you, those weren't your decisions. And you should listen to feedback. You should have a healthy, open ear to it, and yet that's got to work its way into the way that you think, and not necessarily, um, always thinking, well, I don't know what to do this. I'll phone a friend or something. That being said, you need that tribe. You need the people that you're kind of bouncing ideas off of, that you're like seeing what they're doing, and that inspires you to go a little farther. And it's always going to push you to go farther, um, if you're around other people who are also pushing. Right. Um, there was something else I was going to say on that note, but I lost it, and I'm not sure that it really matters. You know, that it doesn't matter that I say everything that came to mind. I'm gonna read the chat again and get caught up a little bit. Um, How long have you been painting water for it to be looking believable? Do you place the green in the water arbitrarily? Um, yeah, we talked about that a little earlier. In this case, yes, I've kind of added the green in the water as a design element. It's to draw the eye to different areas and to add visual interest. If you were to do it technically correct, the sun or the light source would have to be behind them to kind of get that green effect. That's kind of the light passing through the water. And then as far as how long have you been painting the water? I gave a basic breakdown of how it works. Basically, you can paint, whatever your shadow area is you can paint the whatever's underneath the surface of the water, and then everything, every angle of the waves is going to reflect skylight. That's where you bring in that reflected light, and that's going to obscure what's down beneath it. So your dark areas are what you're seeing under the waves, and then the light areas are reflections of the sky. Going back to the chat. For sure, but still felt feedback wasn't emphasized, encouraged, nor working together. Yeah, and that's absolutely true. I felt like I wanted people to talk more, and there wasn't much talking. There wasn't much asking for it. I mean, it was basically a daily presentation of like, this is what I've done. This is what I did today. And I think that element is necessary. But the response to like, hey, have you tried this? Or, that's really cool. I like what you're doing, blah, 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 that sort of thing. Just chatter of any kind, is, I think, a good thing. I shouldn't say of any kind, but of a genuine, thoughtful nature. And part of the survey will cover that. And so I'd be interested to hear. I mean, whatever you feel about that, say it in the survey so that we have it, so that Silas and I can look at that later, and compare it with what other people felt. I have a personal opinion, and so I don't want to taint your response too much. But I'll just say it that in Discord, I think part of the problem is that we're following the format of Facebook and Instagram and whatever of likes and interactions, and I think it's a really sadly diminishes the artist and the artwork when we replace a genuine conversation and interest in the work with emojis. Like, oh, I got 4 hearts or 4 thumbs up, and then you start to interpret those things. Like, well, they got a heart and I got a thumbs up. Does that mean, is that a pat on the back? And what does a pat on the back mean? Does that mean good job, or does that mean keep on trying, buddy? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a certain level of interpretation that really just plays into the emotional state of the artist. And it may not have at all been the intent of what the person who left that remark or that emoji meant, right? I get that all the time. I actually kind of laugh about it. There's one friend of mine who is a great artist, and a lot of times when I post these live streams, I'll get like the concerned smiley face hugging the heart, like I care emoji, and I'm like, what does that mean? Is it sad to you? Like, you're concerned about me that I'm doing these I don't know what's going on. So it's just funny because I think that there we've distilled communication down to these symbols that like are totally ambiguous. And if you have done any study or taken a class or whatever on communication, you know, over 50% of communication is not verbal, right? There's body language, there's inflection, there's facial expressions, and you know, cadence, all that stuff. It's not just the words that we say, and so um, going from a face-to-face conversation to a over-the-phone conversation to a text conversation to a symbols and emojis and chirps. Like uh, we've 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 really spoiled the experience of communicating. And so anyway, I'll get off my high horse there. I'm thinking about that as we develop how we want the art skirmish community to work. And Discord as a platform is like already geared up to work in ways that I would prefer we don't work. But it's also the way that people are familiar with communicating these days. So I might just be a grumpy old man anomaly in that regard. All right, back to the chat. Needs to be forced in some way, possibly was committing to the goal. Yeah, the forced responses is, I would say, worse than no response. The fact that people are showing their work and other people are seeing it is great. I've been in like online classes and stuff they're like, now respond to 3 other people, and like I remember doing my best to honor those people's effort and time commitment and everything, but really I was just doing it because I had to for the grade. Um, and I don't know, the purist in me wants like a real genuine conversation. Cool. Thanks. Been a few weeks. How have things been? I've been making progress on my portrait class. Awesome. Yeah, things have been pretty good. I've been really busy with conventions. I did Lightbox, Legion's Con, and Rochester Maker Faire, kind of all back to back. I had one weekend break in between Lightbox and Legion's Con, and that was a challenge. A huge challenge. Like just making a whole bunch of stuff and getting everything together for Lightbox, and then of course everything had to be flown out or shipped out, and so there's just a little bit of logistics there. And then Legions and Rochester Maker Faire were in driving distance, so that made it a lot easier. However, I pretty much sold out of the tanks at Lightbox, so I had 2 weeks to refill my stock of tanks, make a whole bunch more for Legions, and that was a super tight deadline, really challenging on top of other work, and it worked out. And then, of course, on the way back from Legion's Con, our transmission decided to die on the van, a couple 100 miles from home. So that was a challenge. It worked out. It was everything's fine, and we're all unscathed. It's just obnoxious. And then Rochester Maker Faire, that was not too far away, and I took my 9-year-old daughter with me. She loves making art, all kinds of art stuff. Like she's super creative and super uh, you know obviously I'm gonna brag on my kids, but I'm saying for real, she just figures out how to get things done. Like if she wants to make a 3D horse, she'll just go scavenge materials and like go do it. And I can always see her wheels turning. Like I had her sculpt in VR. This one time she just kept asking like, "Oh, can I try that?" Some, and she like made this like horse, super into horses. And then like a couple days later, I could see her wheels turning. She was like, "Wait a minute, like, so I made that on the computer. Can you 3D print that?" Like, yeah, we could. So anyway, she's always got these projects and always doing artsy things. So I brought her with me because I thought she would enjoy that, which was good. The show was it was a completely different audience. It's just a lot of conversations about art making, but and a lot of interest in what we were doing. But it wasn't really people weren't there to like collect, collect toys and stuff, which is basically the audience for Fantastic Tanks at this point. So I think I'm done with shows, at least for the year. That's been just a lot, and I've heard before people say that they limit their shows um, to like two a quarter or something like that, and I can see that being a pretty fairly comfortable pace. Okay, going back to the chat. Hey Ron, glad I can catch a stream. Awesome. I'm glad you're here. Uh, Back to Greg on Discord interactions. I hate interactions on Discord. Something I feel guilty about. Not thumbing up everyone else's post. Yeah, to be polite. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Uh, yeah, I've talked about that ad nauseum, but I think we're on the same page. Um, Maybe time for 15 days, then deleted. Food for thought. It was just unfiltered feedback without any care for my well-being from someone who is technically able and interested in the same area as me. Um, yeah, that's actually something I thought was interesting because um, there's a broad spectrum of experience levels in that group, and that was intentional. So two things were intentional. We uh, three things actually. One was we picked people who um, we thought would enjoy the experience and get along and all that. You just uh, people with great temperaments. That was number one. Number two was we wanted a broad spectrum of experience, and then number three was that we wanted a broad spectrum of mediums and interests. Right. So some people were doing traditional, some digital, 3D, 2D, cartooning, painting, uh, merchandise. I mean, I was doing a board game. I thought I was really pushing the limit of what's considered an artistic venture. But the idea is generally what what ideas have just not let you alone, and you have to eventually work on that thing or resign yourself to the fact that you'll never make it. And so that's what art skirmish is for, is to push you to actually do those ideas. So my thing that kept bothering me was I had this rule set for the game that just wasn't quite working, and I had not really set the time aside to sit down and do it. And so when we started the art skirmish alpha, that was like the clear thing for me, that was like, this is something that's important to me. I keep thinking about it. I'm not setting time aside to do it. So that to me, that was like the perfect thing for me to do. But I'll admit that like that was kind of pushing the boundaries of like um, what kinds of projects will we see, I think, in that community. Uh, so yeah, so that being said, there were several other painters who I know that I was curious whether or not they would jump in and give advice, or if that would be um, unsolicited advice, or interesting to see how the dynamic played out, and then how we might encourage different behaviors or interactions in the future. Taking ask, what's art skirmish? So art skirmish is it's a community basically that a friend of mine and I have started. We did our first alpha run. We just finished on Monday, and the idea is that it's a project based community. So it's not just a bunch of artists that get together and chat. Uh, it goes in sessions. We did a 15-day session. We'll probably do another one in a couple of weeks. And you work out your own project goals. Like I just explained, it's the thing that's the easiest one for me to come up with is what's the thing that I keep thinking about that I just never put the time in to do. So that's the thing that you're going to do for 15 days. You're going to break it down to what's a scope that I can accomplish in 15 days, and then you commit to that, and you commit to showing up for half an hour to an hour every day to do it. And it is not necessarily intended as like a boot camp. It's intended more as a get the habit started, right? So I'd rather do something that is sustainable and repeatable than something that is just a whole ton of effort all at once. So anyway, that's what Art Skirmish is. We did our alpha run, which admittedly, rough around the edges, and we haven't set the date yet, but very soon we will be setting the date for the next round. Okay, if they have something to say, not forced. It's just people are too polite and don't want to look weird. Yep, I agree with that. I guess this comes with time though, and maybe once people have been through a few skirmishes, it'll get more informal. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And part of the reason we're looking at this and looking for feedback on it now is, these building a culture isn't an accident, right? And some things will, I'll say, come together over time. It'll grow in some way, and it might not be the way that is ideal or best or what we intend, right? And so it is good to be mindful of these things and set the precedent for where this thing is headed. Because once the precedent is set in a direction that we don't like, it's really hard to change gears and change that momentum. So yeah, these are really important conversations to have right now. And so I wouldn't feel guilty about that at all. In fact, I'm encouraging you to tell me what you think about these things, and we can chat it out. And of course, if you want to actually have a live conversation about it sometime, just hit me up on Discord. Yeah, caught up on the chat. I think the painting is where it's going to be for tonight. I know there's always there's always things I want to fix as I'm talking and answering questions and talking about Art Skirmish. I'm kind of glancing over at the painting. I'm like, oh, that kind of bothers me, and that kind of bothers me, and I want to fix this, and but I need to get in a better habit of closing these out and getting sleep on Wednesday nights, so that Thursdays aren't starting behind the eight ball. Which tomorrow is Thanksgiving, so I guess I don't have to work. That's pretty great. Looking at the chat, Art Skirmish sounds like a great environment for artists. I'm currently an isolated artist, so working with others would be awesome. Where do we join Art Skirmish or the Discord? Yeah, so let me. I don't want to be reluctant to say this. I'm not reluctant at all. It is just that the information might not be accurate at this point because we are building it up. So you have to apply for the skirmish. You can go to artskirmish.com and there is an application, but I would, well, you know what? Just go ahead and apply there. If you're interested and you want to do it, just do that. So it's artskirmish.com, and then you apply, and then you know, if you're accepted, which you very likely would be, we'll send you a link to the Discord. Right now, though, that application is for the alpha that we just did. We have to update the site, but if you go on there and sign up, like, we'll get it anyway, and we'll sort out you know, the change for the beta rather than the alpha round. Sorry if that's like not the most enthusiastic answer. It's just like we just finished the alpha and we're figuring out a lot of the steps as we go. Like, okay, so how do we transition from one skirmish to the next skirmish? And so that you know, you actually point out a good, a very simple, a basic thing, but something we need to have figured out is, you know, once the first round closes, you know, once one round closes, the next one has to be kind of ready to receive people who are interested. We are thinking early December so that we don't run into Christmas, you know, with the 15 days. And you know, that's still up in the air because, again, we're getting feedback from the first round, and then we're going to try to implement that. And you know, we don't know what that feedback will be until we get it, but we definitely do want to keep making momentum on, keep our momentum on this. So very, very, very likely it will be the next week or two. We'll start another one, and then hopefully we'll have a even better oiled machine at that point. Yeah. Okay. I am fading and also hearing myself not sounding as enthusiastic as I actually am. I want to join an isolated artist Discord where you just post your stuff and get feedback. I've been thinking of starting one for a while. Yeah, you guys can talk that out, but for sure, sign up for apply for Art Skirmish, and we'll let you know when the next round is starting. I should probably go to bed now, but I'll give you guys like one more minute if you want to connect. I don't know even know how you do that on YouTube. You're in the chat, but you can figure out each other's Discord stuff. All right, so that is it for tonight. This was the painting that we ended up with. I had this kind of loose idea and thought it would kind of be moody and atmospheric, and then I had kind of an idea of doing something similar in like a bog, kind of a tighter scene, you know, not like this open ocean. Which I guess was that first sketch there, which it's funny now how just how loose, you know, the first go around is, but that's how you kind of work out placement and so forth. Anyway, this is what we ended up with. It was I thought it was fun. Let me zoom in on these guys here. So they don't look like people once you zoom in, but it'd be kind of fun to flesh those out a little bit more. Okay, that's it for tonight, and thank you guys for joining in, guys and gals. That's a Northeast thing. That's a gender neutral. You guys. But anyway, yeah, good discussion. Glad for the interest in art skirmish, and also just kind of fun discussion on technique of painting water and that sort of thing. So yeah, definitely appreciate you guys hopping in the chat and making this way more interesting than me just you know whistling and making awkward dad jokes and stuff. So all right, that's it for tonight. Thank you for joining in. Enjoy your Thanksgiving if that is what you guys do, and otherwise I should be back here. Well, either way, I should be back here next week. And yeah, have a good night.